Hello all, Southington 4th grade scientists. I am Too Tall Tom, your scientist for this experiment/erosion study. My study today is all going to be about water erosion and how water affects the land. So let's get right down to that actual aspect. What is the definition of water erosion? Is it how water touches the land? Is it how water looks at the land? No, it's all about how water changes the land over time, and there's a lot of different variables, different things that make the changes different. It could be the amount of water, it could be how fast the water is moving, how high it's falling from, and anything else that might be in the water. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through the 5 different stages of water erosion with you, and I've got these fun little pictures to show you too. I'll write some stuff in the video as well. So you can follow along. In your packets, when you're on your water erosion page, you can write down these anywhere you'd like to. The name of the water erosion stage and maybe a little note about what it actually is. So I'll get right into it. We'll start with the first one. The thing about water erosion is it's all about the amount of water that's kind of coming down over the amount of time. So amount of water and time. So we're going to start with a little bit of water over a very short period of time, and we'll get a lot bigger and with a lot more water over a lot more time. So we'll start with the first stage, which is splash erosion. Splash erosion. Splash erosion, just like this picture, this is raindrops falling on the earth. So I want you to picture in your head the kickball field right now. All that sand and dirt, dry, hasn't rained in a while, and all of a sudden it starts to rain. Raindrop starts falling down to the ground. Raindrop hits the ground. That's the splash erosion start. When that water droplet hits the ground, that's water erosion. It's going to actually move and disperse all that land, but just on a very small scale. A little bit of water. One raindrop might only move, I don't know, a centimeter or two of the earth, but when you add a bunch of raindrops, just kind of like what happened last night in a huge rainstorm, and actually I think you saw it in one of the other videos, it's going to move a lot more of the land. But splash erosion is all about that first contact water has with the land. So it could be rain, it could be the start of a waterfall, you could just dump a bucket onto the earth. But that very first contact water has with the land, that's splash erosion. Stage number 2 is called sheet erosion, like a bed sheet. Sheet erosion. And sheet erosion deals with what happens when water is finally kind of settled on the land. All this water starts to grab and take away the top layer, that's the key word right there, the top layer of the land, and starts to move it around. So in this picture, if you can get a closer look at it, I'll even zoom in a little bit for you. This is a farmland, and what's happened is that the water has come crashing through the farmland and starts to take away the top layer. It's not digging very deep. It's not taking chunks of land way down in the earth. It's taking that top fluffy stuff, this topsoil, anything that might be on top, like small pebbles and leaves. So sheet erosion is all about, it's like taking your bed sheet and doing like that fun magic trick where you go whoosh, and see if anything moves, anything like that. So it's just the top layer, not the mattress, just the sheet. That's what sheet erosion is all about. So that was stage 2. Let's move on to stage 3. Make sure I got the right one. Stage 3. This one is called rill erosion. R-I-L-L. Rill erosion. Now what you can tell in this picture is that now you see all these lines. All those lines are actually from water. You're like, oh no, someone just took a rake and just decided to do a line on it. Nah, that's water over a ton of water over a ton of time. So what you've got is water starts traveling downhill. That's what you need. You need a water to travel somewhere. If it's just sitting there in a puddle, it's not really doing anything. As soon as it starts to go downhill, that's when it starts to travel, move, and grind and take all this land with it. So thousands and thousands of years of water and time starts to make these rills, these pathways. I like to call them pathways. So when we do our experiment, you'll be able to identify them as pathways too. This is rill erosion. So that's over a very long period of time because this is solid rock. This isn't sand, this isn't dirt, these are rocks. And water on rock, if I pour water on a rock, what's gonna happen? Not a whole lot. I'll probably laugh at you, giggle a little bit, and say, thanks for cooling me off, it was hot today. Over thousands of years and thousands of years of water, yeah, you're going to start to change that rock and move and chip away at it over a period of time. And it's going to take the easiest way down, which is that pathway, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Real erosion. Moving on, stage 4. This one is called gully erosion, G-U-L-L-Y, gully erosion. Picture's kind of tough to see, it's a little dark, but what you can tell the difference is all those rills that once were there now have formed into this giant gully. So over hundreds of thousands of years and hundreds of thousands of years of water, that water keeps streaming down the same spot over and over and over and over and over again, and it breaks down, keeps breaking down. And the very last one, I'll do a little pop quiz for you. I have this picture. You tell me where this place is, and bonus points. Your teacher will give you bonus points. How about that? Sorry, teachers. Stage 5 is called stream channeling. Does anybody know what this place is? Have you seen it before? Have you been there? If you said the Grand Canyon, you're correct. This is a picture of the Grand Canyon because this is the best example in the world of water erosion. The reason I say that is because of its type of erosion. The 5th stage of erosion is called stream channeling. Stream channeling. And there's 2 parts to stream channeling. Like there's 2 words, 2 parts. The first part is it makes the land much wider. And that water will break away at the sides over and over and over again, chipping away as it takes all that land with it. And now when it takes that side land with it, almost like it was like a landfall or a mudslide kind of thing, takes it with it. Now it's at the bottom. It's going to start breaking away at the bottom as well and making it deeper. So the 2 parts of stream channeling are the water makes it wider and the water makes it deeper. So that's the reason why the Grand Canyon is the best example, because of how deep and how wide it actually is. What I'd like to do is take these 5 stages and see if we can recreate them in our own experiment and see if we can find and recreate basically every single stage so that you get a better understanding of what water can actually do to the land. All right, we're here at our experiment area. What I have right here next to me is this giant wooden box that's full of earth. I also have a fun little Lego house, and here is my task, okay? In about 2 minutes, there's gonna be a giant rainstorm. My job is to make sure that this rainstorm does not wash away my land and my house. This is my house. I showed you it before. It's pretty beautiful. 5 bedrooms, you know, got a basketball court in the basement, all the fixings. My job is to make sure that this water that's coming down doesn't wash away my house, so I have to do something to the land that will help prevent all my stuff from getting ruined, and specifically my house from getting washed away. Land is possible. Now, I'm going to show you 2 different designs I have in my brain. I'm already starting to think, if you want to come a little closer, what we can do is I could show you the box and I'll have you actually figure out what's one of the best ways to help prevent your house from getting washed away. If all the rain's coming downhill like we talked about before, how do I make something or change the land so that my house doesn't get ruined? Take a second. What do you think is the best way to do this? And everybody's got a different opinion, but go ahead. What do you think? Now, one thing you might be worried about is like, too tall Tom, all the water is just gonna collect at the bottom. I got a solution to that. It's hiding right here. There's a little hole, so all the water will definitely funnel through. So you don't have to worry about that too much. It's not gonna just pool up and you have a houseboat or a boathouse or whatever you wanna call it kind of thing. So, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make my first design. You can follow along with me, and then I'm gonna make it rain. We'll see if my design works. So follow along with me. See what we can do. All right, I finished my design. Now what you can kind of see is my thought process behind this is that all that water is going to come down. I want to try to force the water down my pathways or my rills, because Reels are like pathways that water's going to travel down. So my hope is that all this water travels down these reels that I made, man-made reels we call them, so that the water travels around the house, out the hole, and never touches the house. That's my thought process. That's what I want to have happen. I'm going to start pouring the water. What I want you to do is I want you to look for the 5 different stages that we talked about. First one being, and see if you can follow along with me. I'll give you a second to collect your thoughts. The 5 stages, we'll start with the first one. Do you know what it is? First one, splash erosion, that first contact. Second one, anybody? Sheet erosion, that top layer. What happens to the top layer? Third, just said it. Rill erosion. Rill erosion makes its own pathway. Water makes its own pathway. Fourth one, probably the hardest one to find and see in this experiment specifically, was gully erosion. And the final stage, 2 words, has 2 parts. Stream channeling. The Grand Canyon kind of style, that was the best example. It has 2 parts. It makes the earth wider and deeper. So I want you to look for all 5 of those stages as I pour the water and see if you can see where they are in the box. I'll help you out too. I'll see if I can find any of them as well. And fingers crossed, I hope my house survives. You ready? I'm nervous. My hands are shaking. I don't know. So here comes the water. It's gonna come down like a beautiful cascading waterfall right at the top. Take a look. Watch to see what happens. We'll check it out later. All right. All right. So how'd we do? House is still in one piece. Not too bad. Come a little closer so you can check out the box. Let's start with, yeah, you could clap. We clapped. The house survived. Definitely house survived. But do you see any of the 5 stages? Let's start with the first one. Does anybody see where splash erosion might have happened? Where in the box? Go ahead, point to it, call it out. Raise your hand first. Where is splash erosion best? The best example of splash erosion I can see in this box would be right here. This is the water's first contact, like we talked about, first contact with the land. Right here, there's barely anything. My finger is not even dirty. I can go like this. All of that land has been pushed away. That water droplet hit and made that splash area. This whole circle is the splash area. So that's the best example of splash I can give you. How about sheet erosion, the second stage? Anybody see sheet erosion anywhere? Couple different spots. First spot I see it would be pretty much right here in this little tiny area, that second pathway I made before. You notice that the top layer starts to get traveling down with the water, kind of like what happened way in the beginning of this experiment. The land took away the top layer, the water took away the top layer of the land first and started to break down the bottom. Because you can see this is what the land looked like before and what's happening afterwards. So all that land now actually traveled with the water and came out the bottom of the box. So this is all a result of sheet erosion outside of the box. Stage 3, did anybody see the rills? It's kind of an easy one, to be honest. I made the rills, the human rills or whatever. 2 pathways. It definitely took my first pathway really easy. Water is kind of lazy in that way. It takes the path of least resistance, which would be straight down and nothing in its way. So it took my first rill all the way down very nicely. But what's the difference between when I started and what it looks like now? It's definitely not the same size. It actually looks a different color too, which is definitely interesting. Which kind of gets us into our next few stages. Gully. Gully is when 2 rills kind of form together or more to make a deeper kind of a trench aspect with all that water. More water, more time. Best place for a gully, you probably already pointed it out, you probably already can see it. Down towards the bottom where the 2 rills meet, this section right here is a lot deeper and a little bit wider, which actually gives us right into our final stage. You're already saying it out loud in your head, stream channeling. What are the 2 parts? Makes it wider, makes it deeper. Does anybody see a really good example of stream channeling in the box? Yep, you're right. Down at the bottom right here. That first reel, it was only my finger wide. So you can see right here, the water never got here. Same deal on this side, except now it's nearly at the bottom of the box. There's not much room left to go to the bottom. It's way wider. One finger is here. This fits nearly 4 fingers. Almost all 5 of my fingers fit. So it's 5 fingers wide now, which means that all that water was breaking away at the sides. And if you were paying attention during the video, you actually saw chunks of earth fall with the water and travel. And that's why we have so much of the earth outside of the box, because it took away the sides and dragged it with it, and all that earth that was traveling with it started to hit the other sides of the earth and hit the bottom of the earth and drag that earth with it, and now it's this whole giant earthy water river disaster moving everything around. So did I survive? I did. The rain didn't last too long. But my final question would be, if it kept raining, the water kept pouring, would my house survive? Would my house survive if the water kept going? What do you think? You know what? Let's do one more experiment, different design, and we can test out that question and see if we can find an answer to that final question I have for you. So, let me redesign this whole thing. We'll do some funny, silly music, I don't know. Redesign. Let's get to experiment number 2. All right. Same experiment, different design. Design number 2.
Okay.
So, that was kind of fun. My hands are super dirty. I'll wash them afterwards. But the thought process behind this design was I created a wall. And my thought is all the water will just stay above the wall. It's almost like I built the Hoover Dam a little bit. What do you think? Will this design be better than my first design where I made the rills and they went around, the water went around the house? Is this one better? Is it worse? Or are you just not sure? I just like to do the, oh yeah, it's better, no, it's way worse, or I'm not really sure yet. You can do the same thing in class right now. Well, that didn't turn out quite as I expected. If you have any questions, give us a call. If you have your own designs, shoot me an email. I don't care. I'd love to see what you do with water erosion. It was my favorite one, to be honest. Don't tell Justin. Thanks for tuning in on our water erosion experiment. Nick's playing in the background with the sand right now. It's super fun. We'll see you guys for the next. Erosion experiment. Thanks for tuning in. I had fun. Hope you did too. See you later.
Bye, Tom's house.